If there is one thing that I feel BANCHOU have always done right for the unit 80% of the time, is every time there is an anime retrained unit, they always hype it up and they manage to display their capability quite well. And the same can be said for this particular unit I'm going to be talking about today. But when I see the name and how he looks after the retrain, it makes me thinking, is the word rebuild in the new Youthberk form actually meant you have to actually rebuild your deck? Because that's just exactly how it feels like, because of how different it feels to play, and at the same time it feels like Double O Riser from the show got downgraded to the Double O Riser from the Trailblazer movie. That is how I feel about Youthberk, and I'm not sure. This is a very interesting case of like the new form works, but it costs too much. But why exactly is that? That is exactly what I'm gonna be talking about today. So every time I'm talking about the new cards or when there is a new red line, I would try to cover through the new form as much as possible. But this time around, I feel there's no need for that. Why? Because both of the new use, the grade 1 and the grade 2, are straight up hard upgrade to the original. The grade 1 check for more cards, and the grade 2 had a better cost compared to the original, which need counterblast 1. So nothing too crazy, but it is a strict upgrade, which a lot of deck doesn't really receive it, so I'm just gonna shut up and take it to the T. But what I'm not gonna stand by is how they handle the brand new Youthberk Skyfall Arms rebuild. This card has 3 skills, where at the first skill is your usual Rebel Dress skill, but at the same time you are also allowed to Rebel Dress from drop zone, but it does cause a counterblast and pretty much the same Rebel Dress condition as the original. And then when this unit is rolled upon, discard 1 card and reset the rank of this unit to 1. And last but very least skill, when this unit would write on a grade 3 card with Rebel form in this card name, bind the unit that was rolled upon instead of putting it into soul. Okay, credits due to where it's due. 2 out of 3 skills are pretty solid in itself. Ability to Rebel Dress from drop also means that now you are able to discard the Rebel form as a discard cost for your right deck, and you still have access to all of those Rebel forms. And the drive resetting is nice in itself, though for those who has been scalping on the Sequana, or I can say just Kamala. Emotional damage. But I feel that is all the only good point that it has, because I don't know who reworked on the armor of the Skyfall Arms, but they did kind of a shit job because it sacrifices 2 aspects that the original has that I feel is a very advantageous thing for Youthberk in the past, and that is the ability to Spiral Call every turn and the ability to keep the Rebel form in the form of Soul at the end of the turn. This means that if you're trying to play Rebuild, you are forced to run all the generics that does help you to extend to another card, aka Heater Power, though in the case of Rebuild, you technically can run Departure to the Dawn instead of Wisdom. But the greatest sin I have with the Rebuild is easily the 3rd skill. Why is it has to bind the Rebel form at the end of turn? I know there's a reason for this, but I feel it doesn't deserve as a proper demerit for the skill. Essentially a 2 steps up and also 2 steps down. So essentially you are back to where the Youthberk was. And why exactly you have to bind a Rebel form? Well, it's because of the brand new Rebel form, and that is Rebel form exists. Yeah, it's the existence of annoyance because it's a very good card, but at the same time it gives me a flashback of certain cards, as well as also is the reason behind the stupid restriction on the rebuild, where once you essentially Rebel Dress with this card, you can perform all of the following: Energy Blast 3 to restamp one of your direct card, then your front row plus 10k until end of turn. If you have another Rebel form in your bind zone, you plus 20 instead of 10, and then if you have a card with the same name as this unit get additional crit until end of turn. And of course the second skill is your usual right back to the Skyfalls. The thing about Exit is that it is an incredible card as it enables 5 attack use, which I think haven't been done before, and that's a huge plus. And the 20k increment is really good even if it is locked behind turn 4, which does able to compete numbers with
meta tier decks.
The problem with Exit is just that it introduces a restriction to make this card works, and that is the fact that you have to bind Rebel form to make this card actually works.
That doesn't sound so bad.
And this is where I feel the similarity of this card with Full Blast come into full display. These 2 Rebel form are a very selfish Rebel form in the sense that they are forcing certain cards in your deck to play around its playstyle. In Full Blast case, we have Corino and Vergosa, which help to build soul towards a Full Blast. For Exit case, we have Rebuild, where Rebuild just bind Rebel form to enable Exit skill. skill. The problem with this though, at least in my opinion, is the fact that unlike Full Blast where Corino and Fuegosa are an incredible card, rebuild restriction is so unnecessary. Like, can't you just give the option for the player to bind or not bind? Because let's be real, the only thing you want to buy at the end of turn is just exist himself. So once you have one exist in your bind zone, you are pretty much able to play it until the end of the game unless you're up against deck that can interact with the bind zone like Shoujo Doji. So for me, exist is an incredible card, but it also is the reasons behind the restriction of the deck itself. And I'll be honest, I seriously want to know the law of this new Youthberk form because there gotta be the reason behind this restriction, man. And I'll be honest, other than that, there's not much new card to talk about, but I'm willing to give a shout out to Derek, which essentially is a new Shanaisao, and of course the brand new card that I feel is a nice tech choice, but not a necessity to run, and that is Armor Breaking Knight Duringen. This card has two abilities where it gets 5k if you have a rebel form in your bind zone, and then Medicine is standby ability of your Youthberk Vanguard skill. Counterblast 1, draw a card, and until end of turn, when your opponent would call a card from hand to card circle for this unit attack, you have to call 2 at the same time. Card restrict is always nice, and as we all know, Decisive Act is one of the best card in Youthberk deck, depending on the build you want to go for. Doringen happen to be not a strict upgrade, but a different option you can run if you don't have Decisive Act. So it is not a bad card, but it is also not great either. It's just okay. So just to summarize the good point of the rebuild and the bad point of it, rebuild is just simply a more comfy version of the Youthberk if you want to rebel form, because his ability to rebel form from drop does allow you to be a little bit more aggressive with his discard, and the direct reset is always nice to have. The problem with the new rebuild though is the fact that the huge part of your deck is needed to run a card that helps you to search into more cards, and not only that, rebuild always constantly goes into a negative resource due to the discard skill. Yes, there are some cards that does allow you to gain advantage back from those discards, but I feel over time it became a detriment if you do not run cards that help you to draw into more cards. And last but not least, back in Full Blast, the counter blast was a slight problem. This time round is the energy, which does restrict some powerful energy cards like Energy Cycler from being used in the deck itself. But what do you guys think? Does rebuild actual skill
force you to go
back to Youthberk? Do leave down in the comments below, because I know a few people who are still excited for it, and there is nothing wrong with that. If this is your favorite unit, it's okay to still fall in love with it. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Take care of yourself, don't forget to clap that sub and become a member for some cool perks. This is Mac Mechanic signing out.
Yeah.